We will discuss first the Philippine poultry industry. This is the profile of the population of chickens in the Philippines from year 2010 to 2014. We see here that the population is rising from 2010, 159 million birds, up to 2014, which is 168 million. What are the challenges that pose the poultry industry in the Philippines? I have mentioned here 4. First, the cheap imports of poultry products, especially during quarters. Second, the presence of disease like avian influenza and other endemic diseases. Then, rising feed and medicine cost. Then, this one, the passage of Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Act, put the focus of government to agriculture. So, these first 3 challenges are being solved by the government by the passage of the Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Act. Now, we'll go to the classification of poultry. So, poultry are birds. Generally, they belong to the kingdom Animalia or the animal kingdom. They have backbones and they belong to phylum Chordata and group or the class Aves or the class of birds. The subgrouping of important classifications are in the order Galliformes and Anseriformes. Galliformes involves birds which are land-based, or they cannot really fly. So, examples are pheasants and chickens. Anseriformes are birds which involve their affinity to water like ducks or geese. This one. These are examples of birds, members of Galliformes. The chickens. Then we have the ducks. That one. Now, we should try to question ourselves or to ask ourselves why we focus on poultry raising. It's because poultry are for meat purposes, for egg production. We can also raise poultry for show or for fancy, and then for game purposes. Meat purposes is obvious. It is our viand. Egg purposes or egg production, they are the manufacture of eggs. And for fancy, showbirds like bantam or other poultry like peacock, they are there for display. Then game purposes, they are for hunting like quails or turkeys. These are birds for meat purposes. They are the broilers. And in opposite for that, we have the layers that produce eggs. These are examples for game birds like seri quails, and these are birds, the colored hens, which are there for display like the bantam chickens. So we have different types of birds for raising. First, we have the chickens, the broilers, and the layers. Then we have the quails, ducks, Peking ducks, Muscovy duck, turkey, game birds, pigeons, beefall, bantam chickens, and lastly, geese or goose. Now, at this point, are there any questions? Okay, if there is none, we'll proceed. We'll proceed to broiler production. Broilers, or the broiler, is the term given for a young chicken for roasting. Although specific terms like fryer or frying is meant for frying purposes. The roaster is for roasting. What are the characteristics of broilers? This type of animals have short growing period compared to other farm animals. It can be harvested early, as early as 33 days, or if the animals reach a kilo or more. Then we can raise broilers by growing it commercially. These are commercial farms for broilers. A broiler farm should have good access to roads and far from the nearest population so that it cannot disturb neighbors or cannot disturb the community. It should have water and electricity sources, and if possible, it should have enough land space for future expansion. However, due to our conditions as students, we cannot limit ourselves in growing poultry commercially. We can grow broilers in the backyard. A broiler project of 50 to 100 heads can easily fit to our budget for financing and can augment our income. The project should be attended with utmost care so that the owner will not disturb other neighbors. A cage with a dimension of 5 by 5 feet can easily accommodate 25 heads, or with a density of 1 square foot per bird. This is an example of our cage. Then we need equipment. So we have here feeding trough, and we have here the watering trough. To raise broilers, we begin with the brooding period. What is the brooding period? This is the most important part of broiler growing. It starts from the first week, then up to the third week, or from the first day up to the 14th or the 21st day. Now, what shall we do in brooding period? We substitute the mother of the day-old chicks so that we can give ample heat and ample nutrition to the day-old chicks. Our first priority is to give the source of heat. We have a bulb or a charcoal stove, or in commercial level, we can use infrared heaters. These are examples of broiling methods. We have here bulbs. We have here a brooding method using infrared heaters. Then we have to manage the day-old chicks. The first thing that we should do is cleanliness. Care should be given to the broilers so that the litter material will be clean. Then we have to give the correct temperature. No one caring the animals should be observant, or the one caring the animals should be observant with its behavior. Then, how can we determine the correct temperature? First, brooding can be determined by means of room thermometer. A temperature of 32 degrees centigrade is a start from day 1, then decrease it at least 1%, 1 degree increment until 28 degrees Celsius, or room temperature, and at the second or the third week of brooding. Of course, it depends upon the condition of the weather. Now, we can observe the correct temperature because they are scattering. So, a scattered behavior can be an indication that they have received sufficient heat. The heat is not too much, the heat is not too cold, or the water is not too cold and it's not very hot. That's an example of a correct brooding temperature. We have seen here, the birds are scattering all around the little floor. Now, after the brooding, we go to the growing period. In growing, it's from the second or the third week up to the fourth week. In the backyard, this is what we do in the growing period. Then after the growing period, we'll go to finishing period. So it's from the fourth week until we harvest the birds at 35 or 40 days, depending upon the requirement of the weight. Again, we have the birds at 33 days in the backyard to sell. Now to recap. First, the raised broilers, we have divided the phases of its life. First, brooding period, from first to second week or until the third week. Then the growing period, from the third week up to the fourth week, and then the finishing period from the fourth week or from the fifth week to the sixth week. Okay? So, questions? If there is none, proceed. What we have here is the activity chart in the broiler growing. So, 1 to 6 days, we have the antibiotic and vitamins. We will give the birds antibiotic and vitamins. Then we will give chick booster mash as the feed for the birds. Then note the 7th, 14th, and the 21st day. On the 7th day, we give biologicals or vaccinations for chickens. On the 7th day, we give NCD vaccine. On the 14th day, we will give the IBD vaccine. Then, on the 21st day, we will give again the NCD Lasota vaccine. Then, all the rest will be antibiotics. Then, we have vitamins. Now, after we have grown the broilers, we harvest them. So these are the methods of harvesting broilers. At 35 days, so the birds now are ready for market. Now, this is the method. Catch the birds using both hands at the feet. Then, caught chickens should be placed in a crate. These are the crates, so that they will be comfortable. After harvesting, these are the steps in broiler processing. First, stunning, slitting, scalding, plucking, evisceration, then chilling. Stunning, we render the birds unconscious. Then the neck will be slitted so that the blood will go out from the body, so that the carcass of the birds will be fresh, will be devoid of blood, and it should be the quality of the meat should not be reddish. Then we scald, or we subject the bird to high temperature to get the feathers out. That is plucking. Then in evisceration, we get the entrails or the digestive system of the birds so that it will be clean. Then we finish it by chilling the carcass to the cold temperature at about 10 to 8 degrees Celsius, up to 0 degrees Celsius. These are the pictures for stunning. Then here, the birds are splitted. It's hung upside down, and the blood is being is dropping to this one, to the ground, or sometimes there are collectors of blood. Then we scald the birds. Then the feathers are being plucked. The entrails are being eviscerated or being taken out. Then the birds are being chilled. And the result, the dressed chicken that we are accustomed to. Questions at this point? If there is none, we'll proceed to backyard broiler processing. We have the scalding method here, plucking, then evisceration. After evisceration, it's being chilled, and that is the final product. So at this point, I hope that you have learned the basics in the poultry production. So, questions? Clarifications? If there are none, thank you and good day. Okay, go. Okay, good afternoon. Today is a continuation of our lecture last time for Animal Production Technology 11 or poultry production. Let's review first what we have done last time. There are some questions. Question number 1. Answer it, true or false. Broilers and layers are under the order Anseriformes. True or false? 2. The first step in dressing chicken is evisceration, plucking, scalding, and slitting. Number 3, the last stage of raising broilers will be growing, brooding, starting, and finishing. Number 4, the feeds given to broilers when it's 2 weeks of age will be chick booster mash, broiler grower crumbles, broiler starter crumbles, or broiler finisher crumbles. So I think you have answered that one. So let's proceed. Our topic for this afternoon will be layers. Layers are chickens which are bred for egg purposes. Now, broilers are chickens which are bred for meat purposes, while layers will be chickens which are bred for egg purposes. Let's go to the management of layers. Layer chickens can be raised using battery cage system or litter type system. In a cage system, the chickens are placed in a cage where it lays. In a litter or slatted floor open type systems, the chickens are placed in a house where it lays eggs in the nests. Here are some examples. We have the cage type housing for layers and litter type housing. The layers there, one, they are nests for layers. This is the litter type house. In the local setting, the density, meaning the birds per square foot, will be 0.5 to 1 square foot per bird. So this cage can handle about 1,000 heads. We have this is called a battery cage. So Cage number 1, 2, and 3. So 3 batteries. Then, how shall we rear or raise layers? So since layers are birds, they follow the stages of the broiler's life. From 1 to 4 weeks, we have brooding. Then from 5 to 22 weeks, we have growing. Then at 23 to 60 weeks, that is the laying phase. And then if the layers will not lay the eggs, then it will be cow. So culling will be done on the 61st weeks above. It is better if layer chickens are grown in different houses. One house is allocated for brooding. Then after a month, the birds are transferred to a growing house, and at 20 weeks, transferred again to the cages or layer houses for laying. Then feeding. Layers are given feeds in a restricted manner. So unlike broilers, wherein broilers are given feeds in large quantities, sizes. In making uniform sizes layers, this will be translated to a high uniformity in laying percentage because their bodies are in uniform. So their laying capacity will be also in uniform. So these are examples for feeding guide of layers. So at 24th week stage, so we have body weight of 1.47. Then the feed intake per layer will be 90.5 grams. Then at week 22, and 28 rather, the body weight will be 1.52, and the feed intake will be 97.6 grams, and this will be our guide in feeding the layers. Questions? Clarifications? So if there is none, let's proceed. So let's go to the relationship of light and layers. So generally, layers need at least 12 to 16 hours of light in order to have efficient laying capability. In the months of October to January, tropical countries, which include the Philippines, experience short days of about 10 hours and long nights for about 14 hours. Thus, 2 hours of additional light should be done to compensate this requirement. Now, how shall we feed layers? In brooding phase, we have 2 kinds of feeds to be given. From first week to 2 weeks, we have layer boosted mash. Then, from 3rd to 4th week, we have layer started mash. Then in the growing phase, from 5 to 22 weeks, we have pullet developer mash. Then in the laying period, from 23 to 55 weeks, we have layer mash 1. And from 56 weeks after the culling period, we have layer mash 2. What's the difference between layer mash 1 and layer mash 2? Well, the difference is obvious. Layer mash 1 are for layers which are at its prime. So it is packed with more or less more vitamins than layer mash 2, which is good for older layers. We have a condition known as molting. So molting is a condition where chicken changes its feathers. Generally, it occurs when days are shortest. So, in December, it may take 2 months to complete molt, and of course, when chicken is at 12 months of age. when chickens are in molting, egg production will decrease. Management of molting includes supplement of high protein ration and calcium. Then we have also to debake the chickens. Debaking is the cutting of the beak of the chickens. Here's the proper debaking method. So this is done to prevent cannibalism since restriction feeding is practiced during laying management. So disease management. How shall we manage diseases? We can control diseases by following this medication vaccination chart. So from day 1, we will give the vaccine called Marek's disease, and these are the routes. So day 1 up to 20 weeks, we have vaccination schedules for laying chickens. Questions? Clarifications? Before we proceed, before we take a leave of this room, from this room, we'll give you an assignment. First, research for the production parameters of broilers and layers. Production parameters are numbers in which we measure the productivity of chickens. So I will leave it up to you. So, thank you and good day. Let's proceed now to production parameters. Production parameters are measurements of the outcome of the production. It is a useful tool to monitor the performance, efficiency of the poultry farm. All the rigorous poultry farm activities should be quantified to judge production success. That is the importance of production parameters. Then, these are the common parameters in chicken production, specifically broilers and layers. First, we have the livability percentage. Livability percentage is the quantity of animals that remain during harvest. It has the formula of animals recovered over the quantity of animals initially placed, and it will be multiplied by 100 since it is a percent. Then we have the average land weight. In the average land weight, this is the mean weight of the animals. The formula is total weight of the animals over total numbers of the animals weight. Another common production parameter is feeds conversion ratio or FCR. This is the relationship between the feeds that has been converted by the animal to meat. This is the manifested FCR values are quantities of feeds in kilogram as compared to the standard 1 kilogram of meat converted. The formula is total weight of feeds consumed of the animals over total weight of the animals harvested. So another one, we have age. This is the number of days from the start of the placement of the birds in the farm until it is harvested. The formula is the date of harvest should be subtracted by the date of placement of the animals. Thus, you can make the age. Then, another one, the broiler performance score or BPS. This is the total score or the total performance of the broilers. This is the combination of the livability, feeds conversion ratio, average live weight, and age. The formula is the quantity of livability times average live weight over FCR times age. That quantity should be multiplied by 100 and you can have the broiler performance score. In layers, we have laying percentage. This is the quantity of eggs laid by the chickens, specifically in percent. It has the formula of total number of eggs laid over total number of layer chickens times 100. Then another one, hen-house laying production percentage, or also known as hen-house production. This is the total eggs laid in relation to the layer chickens population present in a particular layer house. We have the formula. Total eggs laid over total number of layers in a population, and that quantity will be multiplied by 100, and you have the hen house percentage. Questions? Verifications? Okay, let's proceed. We have here some examples of livability. Say a farm has 1,000 heads of broilers during placement. When harvested, only 950 heads were recovered. What is the livability percentage? So the answer is, of course, it's 95%. Solution is 950 over 1,000, which is the population of the birds, times 100. That's why you got 95%. Okay. Another example is the average live weight. A farm harvested 950 heads of broilers with a total weight of 1,500 kilos. The average live weight will be 1.58 kilograms. How do we do that? We will divide 1,500 kilos to the total number of heads, which is 950, and you got the 1.58 kilograms. Another example is the FCR, or the feeds conversion ratio. Our problem is, a farm with a total weight of harvested birds of 1,500 kilos consume feeds totaling to 54 bags. Each bag contains 50 kilos. Now, what is the feeds conversion ratio? The answer is 1.8. Why 1.8? We have the solution. First, convert the bags into kilograms. So, 50 times 54, that will be 2,700 kilos. Then, using the formula, 2,700 kilos divided by 1,500 kilos, that will be 1.8. And what will be the meaning of 1.8? This means that it takes 1.8 of feeds, 1.8 kilogram of feeds to produce 1 kilo of meat in the farm. So H, that will be our next example. We have a problem. A broiler, which is a day-old chick, were placed into the farm last October 1, 2014. The owner planned to harvest these birds on November 4, 2014. What will be the harvest age? So the answer will be, yes, 35 days old. Why? Because we subtract November 4 to October 1, and that will be 35. An alternative solution is, there are 31 days in October plus 4 days in November, which is November 4. So, the age will be 35 days. Now, the total score, or the broiler performance score. This is the combination of the 4 production parameters: average live weight, FCR, age, and livability. So, here, we have an average live weight of 1.58, an age of 35 days, FCR of 1.8, and a livability of 95%. So, what will be the FCR? So, the answer is 238. What is the meaning of this 238? It means that our poultry farm is standard, or the performance rather is standard, because the industrial standard of BPS is 200 points. Thus, the farm is performing. If you care about the solution, here is the solution. 1.58 times 95 over 1.8 times 35, and that quantity will be multiplied to 100. You get 238. Now, let's go to layers. These are the common production. This is the common production parameters in layer, the hen house production. So a layer house has 1,000 heads of chickens with 850 eggs laid in one day. The question is, what is the hen house production percentage? The answer is correct again, 85%. How did we get 85? 850 divided by 100, which is the total population of the birds, that will be 85%. Then, let's wrap up. Production parameters. They are used as tools for measurement of efficiency of animals in the farm, specifically broilers and layers. The performance of the farm should be based from the industrial standards. Subpar performance, meaning under performance, means problem in farm management. And as Bachelor of Agriculture Technologist or Agricultural Technology, you have to determine what is that farm problem. Okay? So, any questions? Clarifications? Good afternoon. Again, I'm back with fighting cocks. Raising fighting cocks. So, what is a fighting cock? These are male chickens bred for ultimately one purpose, for fighting. And these chickens are involved in sport called cock fighting. Why fighting cocks? It's because it's an industry in our country. It is a 50 billion peso industry. 50 billion with a B. It has a population of 30 to 40 million heads of fighting cocks, which are destined for derbies. Then the industry involves the production of feed requirement of the birds, and not to mention the research and development of medications exclusively for fighting cocks. So what's a characteristic of a good fighting cock? First, gameness. This refers to the ability of the rooster to be active and reactive to opposing roosters. The rooster should have the ability to fight and not to retreat if it encounters opposition. Another characteristic is good body conformity. A good rooster should have streamlined body. It should not be too fat, and it should not be too tall or too small, just like this example. And it should come from a winning pedigree. Parental lineage is important in selection of good fighting cocks. Here, there are stages in fighting cocks' life. First, as the tradition goes in chickens, the first 4 weeks will be allotted to breeding. Then after that, that will be growing and hardening phase. This stage where the roosters are exposed to the elements and given ample time to exercise and develop its muscles. This begins on the 5th week until 5-6 months of its life. Remember that we are not raising chickens for food. We are raising chickens for fighting. Thus, we are exercising and developing the muscles of a fighting cock. Then after 6 months, we have the preconditioning stage. This is stage the time when the roosters are being hoarded and exercises like body fleshing is developed and fighting ability is selected. This happens from 6 months until the rooster is selected for conditioning for a fight. Then after preconditioning, we have conditioning. This is the stage where a programmed exercise like scratching, flying, or simulated fights are done. This happens a month to a week before a scheduled fight. The more important and most competitive is the fight, the longer the conditioning period. The longer the preparation, the more important is the fight. So, the last stage will be pointing. This is the stage where all the fighting exercises end and the rooster is prepared for a fight. This is done 1 to 3 days before the fight. Care should be done that the weight of the fighting cock should not be affected, or else the cock will be disqualified from the derby or from the fighting. how we feed fighting cats. We have the age, the stage, and the feed type. So from first month brooding, we will give the fighting cats baby stag booster. Then from 2 to 5 months, or the hardening stage, that is the stag developer. In 6 to 18 months, that will be pre-conditioning. So, feed type will be preconditioning pellets, 1 part, and 1 part concentrates. Then 18 months, or as determined by the handler or by the owner, that is the conditioning. We give the high protein pellets with concentrates. Then, at last stage, pointing, we will give high protein diet with minimal grains. Questions? Clarifications? So, there's none. So I think that's all for today. Thank you.